This is part 1 of 2D Polyline Utilities. There are currently 26 different 2D Polyline Utilities that are available in Carlson. You can find these utilities on the Edit menu of Carlson, toward the bottom where it says Polyline Utilities. In part 1, we'll be looking at the first 8 on this list, starting with entities to polylines. In the drawing, I've placed some lines and a couple of circles. So we'll go ahead and select those, 7 entities total, and it converted 7 entities into polylines. If we do a list on one of the circles, you can see that it is now a lightweight polyline, which is what we wanted. Circles generally are not polylines. A variety of other entities, including splines, are not polylines. Arcs are not polylines. And actually, we should probably have an arc in here as well. There's some commands we'll want to use eventually that use arcs. So I'm going to convert that entity to a polyline as well. Alright. Next, we'll look at reversing polylines. A variety of commands in Carlson use the direction that a polyline is drawn to apply information to it. That information may be a bearing and distance label. It may be the stationing along a polyline. It may also be a legal description. All of these are handled in the direction the polyline was drawn. So this utility lets me simply pick the polyline, and it shows me the direction it is now going. If I want it to go the opposite direction, I simply select it again, and the arrows give me the direction that it is going. Same with our circles over here and our arc. Simply changing the direction of the polyline. Next on our list is reducing polyline vertices. Each of these polylines has a very limited number of vertices, so I'm actually going to move down one and look at Densify polyline vertices first. And we'll pick a line and tell it we want to add points every 10 feet. Right now there's simply a vertex at each end. If we click on our polyline now, you can see that we have many more vertices on our polyline. Let's see that again. You simply select your polyline, specify the interval that you'd like to use, and it adds the vertices. What would this be useful for? Well, if I'm doing triangulation and I have a long distance, several hundred feet, with only endpoints, I'll get long, skinny triangles, which are not the best for creating contours. So if I can densify this, add some more points, I get more uniform triangles and better looking contours. Now that we've densified these, we can go into Edit, Polyline Utilities, and look at how we can reduce polyline vertices. This is using an offset cutoff. What the offset cutoff is looking for is with the vertices, we'll demonstrate here, as long as this vertex can be removed such that this straight line that would result is less than your offset cutoff distance, the 0.1, from the new line, it will remove that vertex. Now, I think I've probably moved that more than 0.1, so it'll leave that vertex but should eliminate the rest. So let's take a look at our reduce polyline vertices. We'll use the 0.1 cutoff. We'll select that entity and this one, the two that we densified. Hit enter. Now if I look at this point, it got rid of all the vertices because it was a straight line. But you'll notice it didn't get rid of that one. If we look at this polyline, that is the only one that it didn't get rid of because it was more than 0.1 away. Again, this is helpful when you're working with contours because contours can be very vertex intense. And if you can reduce the number of points, your triangulation will go faster, your file size will get smaller. Going back to our polyline utilities, our next one is smooth polyline vertices. And this uses a looping factor from 1 to 10 to simply put some curves in and smooth out your polyline. Again, using an offset cutoff with the smoothing. Do you want to reduce the polylines before you smooth? So we can actually combine the previous command with this one. We don't need to do that here. We'll select our polyline, hit enter, and if we zoom in, you can see how we now have some curves added to smooth out the polyline transition. Again, this may be helpful if you're building some contours or other features that you want to soften a little bit. Polyline Blips, you may be familiar with these. Haven't used these in a number of years, but these are simply the locations of the vertices of the polylines, and you can see them displayed. This is a temporary display, so you can see where the vertices are. As soon as you zoom, they disappear. If we run that command again, you can see on this one each of the new vertices. Okay. Next we come to draw polyline start end. This allows me to assign a symbol to tell me which is the end of the polyline and which is the start. This also gives me an idea of direction similar to the reverse polyline function, but I can actually create a mark for this. So I can come through and pick a polyline or two, pick one of the circles, and so you can see this is the end, this is the start, this is the start and the end. We have a start over here and the end down here. And as you would expect with a circle, it starts and ends at the same place. So again, just a way to tell what direction it's going. Create polyline ID labels. There are a couple of different ways you can label these. When you select a polyline, we can label by text or handles. The handles refer to the AutoCAD CAD engine handle that is assigned to the entity. If we use text, we can tell it that we want it to be simply a number. That number can be incremented. We can add a prefix like PL for polyline. Text size scalar. We'll center justify this, and in this case I'm going to put it in a circle. You have various options for different shapes you can use. And we'll click OK. And so now I have a circle labeling this as Polyline 1. If you choose to use the handles instead of the text, type H for handle, and it simply labels it. In this case, we're not adding circles. I don't have prefix options. It's simply throwing the handle on there so I know what that is. Well, that concludes the first 8 in the Polyline Utilities. We've seen converting entities, reversing polylines, reducing and densifying the vertices on polylines, smoothing polylines, displaying the blips, drawing the start and end with our symbols, and then creating polyline ID labels. There will be additional parts to this that will cover the edit polyline, remove polyline, and check polyline routines. Thank you.